You have my word.
You got a problem with that, outlaw?
This ain't over.
The storm had beaten us raw by the time we saw the lantern glow. My sister Kaya stumbled at my side, her braid plastered to her face, eyes red from rain and smoke. We'd been hunted 3 days straight, cutting across mesquite flats and dry creek beds, ducking from men who spoke of us like property. Every hoofbeat behind us sounded like death. When that lonely light showed at the ridge, we had no choice but to follow it. We reached the cabin half dead, mud clinging to our skirts, rifles gone, knives near useless in our shaking hands. I knocked once, twice. The door swung open to reveal Boone Carter, rangy rancher, face lined by years of sun, eyes sharper than any I'd ever seen. He looked at us like he'd been expecting ghosts. "You can come in," he said low, "but not as you are." I thought I'd misheard. My sister whispered, "Please, they're close. Just let us inside." Boone's jaw set like iron. "Before dawn, one of you weds me, else the both of you'll be carried off before sunrise." The words struck colder than the rain. Marriage at the end of a gun barrel of fate? I pulled Kaya back, half ready to run into the night again. "You'd bargain with us like cattle?" I spat. He shook his head. "Ain't lust, ain't cruelty. It's the law. Old law. Older than this cabin." His hand swept to the doorframe. Carved into the timbers were strange marks, circles and slashes, etched deep as if by knife and fire. Kaya's lips parted in fear. "Apache signs," she whispered, though I knew some were foreign even to her. I narrowed my eyes at him. "You speak of law. Whose? Not the white man's, not ours." He answered, his gaze heavy as thunder. "My grandfather said it plain. If Apache women seek shelter under this roof, marriage binds them to safety. Hunters can't touch a wife, not by tribal oath nor territorial code. Without it, no door nor rifle will hold them back." His words reeked of some truth I didn't want to believe. My breath came ragged, my knife slick in my palm. Was he saving us or trapping us? Kaya clutched my arm. "Ayana, I can't go back out there. You heard them behind us." And she was right. The storm carried more than wind. I heard hoofbeats, distant but closing, the hungry rhythm of men who'd sooner drag us in chains than leave us be. I stood frozen on that threshold, rain soaking into the dirt at my feet. If we stepped inside without vow, Boone said we'd be stolen before morning. If we agreed, we'd belong to him in a bond neither of us chose. Necessity pressed harder than pride. My sister's life against my own disgust. My heart slammed against my ribs as I met Boone's eyes and saw no lust there, but only fear and a grim kind of duty. He said, "Decide," and hand resting near his rifle. "Dawn, don't wait for prayers." The fire crackled behind him, warm and steady. The world outside howled with storm and hunters, and I, Iona Crow Dog, stood with a knife in my hand and shame in my throat, trying to weigh whether survival itself was worth the price of surrender. The cabin closed around us like a trap and a refuge both. The rain beat the roof in a steady roar, dripping through the seams, and the fire's glow painted Boone Carter in restless shadow. Kaya sagged near the hearth, her lips trembling as she reached her hands toward the flames. I stayed standing, knife in my palm, my back against the wall like I could carve my way out if need be. Boone poured coffee into 3 tin cups, though his hands shook as he set them down. "I ain't cruel, Ayana," he said, voice rough as gravel.
But there are riders who trade flesh like coin, and they know you're here. The only thing keeps them from claiming you is a bond they can't break without a federal marshal's word. I glared at him. You speak of marriage like it's armor. Why should we trust your talk of old law? He lowered himself into the chair across from me, the wood groaning. His eyes flicked to the carved symbols lining the walls, each one catching firelight. My grandfather carved these. He rode with Apaches, learned their oaths. He told me plain, women fleeing hunters can claim sanctuary here, but only if they're wed to the man of the house. A wife ain't fugitive. A wife is under law. Tribal, territorial, both. Kaya's voice cracked. And if we don't, then the night swallows you, Boone said. His gaze shifted toward the shuttered windows. Hoofbeats are already follow. You heard 'em. And I had. Even now, faint under the thunder, came that steady rhythm of pursuit. My stomach knotted. You'd bind us to you, sight unseen, to buy a safety? I'd do it because if I don't, they'll drag you out screaming, and I won't see that happen here. Kaya whimpered, covering her face. Rage prickled my skin. I took a step closer to him, knife raised. If you mean to use us, I'll cut you first. Boone didn't flinch. Use me instead. Tie me with vows. The law won't let Hargrove take what's mine. The name struck me like a slap. Clyde Hargrove, mine boss, trafficker, a man whispered about in every border town. My throat went dry. Boone must have seen the fire in my eyes because he leaned forward, urgent now. You think I want this? No. But the choice is marriage or chains. And marriage can be undone in daylight with witness. Chains cannot. The room grew tight, heavy with smoke and storm. I looked to Kaya, her small frame quaking, her eyes wide with the memory of rough hands already too near. Then a sound tore through the cabin, louder than thunder, the pounding of hoofs close, circling. The hunters had reached the ridge. Boone rose, rifle ready, face set like stone. Decide fast, they'll test these walls before long. I felt the blood pulse in my ears, my knife trembling though my grip was iron. The fire flickered over those carved marks, each stroke of the blade etched with some law older than me. I wanted to spit, to curse the choice before us, but the sound of men's laughter cutting through the storm froze my tongue. Whatever lay behind Boone Carter's demand, the night itself pressed us to reckon with it.
The door shuddered under the first blow. Kaya cried out, clutching my sleeve, but I pushed her behind me, knife flashing in the firelight. Boone stood rooted in the center of the cabin, rifle leveled steady, as if the storm outside had been chasing him his whole life, and he was finally ready to face it. The latch splintered and the door swung wide. Clyde Hargrove stepped in first, broad shoulders dripping rain, hat shadowing a face carved of cruelty. 4 men trailed him, guns at their hips, eyes sliding toward my sister like wolves who'd already tasted blood. "Well, look at this," Hargrove drawled, boots stomping mud across the floor. "2 runaways thought they'd outrun me, and Boone Carter of all people harboring 'em. I reckon you forgot the price on their heads." Kaya whimpered, pressing herself against the hearth. My pulse hammered, but I held my knife high. "We are not yours," I spat. Hargrove's grin was a slow-cut thing. "Oh, but you are. Signed papers in Yuma say otherwise. You belong to the camps. Workers, they call you, but we both know the truth." His gaze burned holes through Kaya, who shrank smaller with every word. Boone cocked the hammer of his rifle. "They're under my roof, Clyde. You take 1 step closer, I'll send you to hell in the teeth of this storm."
The men chuckled, shifting hands toward their guns. There were too many of them, too much muscle and iron in that small room. 1 man against 5 meant only blood, and likely ours spilled first. The storm raged louder, wind shrieking down the chimney. My breath caught, my chest tearing between fear and fury. Kaya's sobs shook the cabin worse than the thunder. And then something inside me hardened. I stepped forward, voice cutting sharp as the knife in my hand. "Then hear me now," I shouted, over the storm. "Boone Carter, I accept your proposal. By law of the Crow Dog blood, by tribal right, I bind myself as your wife this night." Every face turned. Kaya gasped. Boone's rifle wavered for the first time. Hargrove's grin faltered. "What nonsense is this?" I raised my knife high, slashing my palm until blood welled hot and red. Pressing it to the carved symbols on the wall, I spoke in the old tongue my mother taught me. Words of union, of blood shared, of protection claimed. My voice shook, but the law in it was older than all of us. Boone caught on quick. He stepped beside me, touching his hand to mine, his voice steady as stone. "Witness it, all of you. She is my wife before dawn. By tribal oath and territorial law, she is beyond your reach." The fire hissed at the blood dripping into it. The room itself seemed to tighten, walls groaning under the weight of words spoken. Hargrove's eyes went black with rage. "You think a few savage words and scratches on wood will stop me?" But his men hesitated, trading nervous looks. Even outlaws feared laws that ran deeper than bullets. I stood tall, blood dripping from my hand, heart hammering, not with shame this time, but with a savage kind of triumph. What Boone meant as a demand, I had turned into a weapon. And for the first time that night, it was Hargrove, not us, who stood on the back foot.
The vow hung in the air like thunder that refused to roll away. My palm burned, blood seeping down my wrist, the symbols on the wall glistening as if alive in firelight. Boone's hand stayed pressed to mine, steady and firm, binding us tighter than iron shackles. Hargrove snarled, spittle shining at the corner of his mouth. "That trick won't hold. Paper law says them girls belong to me." Boone lifted his rifle, his voice iron flat. "Paper law don't stand when tribal oath and territorial statute join. You know it, Clyde. A married woman can't be seized without a marshal's warrant. You got one?" The outlaw's silence was answer enough. His hand twitched near his revolver, but I saw hesitation there, the kind of pause that keeps a man alive when superstition outweighs greed. His men shifted uneasy, their boots tracking water across the floor, eyes darting to the fire, to the carved marks, to the blood. Kaya crept to my side, trembling but upright now, clutching a log from the hearth like a weapon. I felt her fear, but also her resolve, thin but unbreakable as wire. "You won't last till dawn," Hargrove growled. "Storm won't hide you. I'll wait outside with fire and rope, and when daylight comes, your fancy oath won't mean a damn thing." I spat blood on the floor. "Then you'll wait like a dog, watching us live free." Boone slid another rifle shell into the chamber, his movements calm, deliberate. "You'll wait, Clyde, or you'll bury more of your men in the mud tonight. Choice is yours." The fire popped, sending sparks across the room. For a moment, no one breathed. Then Hargrove gave a low, bitter laugh. He backed toward the door, eyes never leaving me. "Enjoy your wedding night, Crow Dog. Dawn's a long way off." The door slammed behind them, thunder swallowing their footsteps. I sank to my knees, shaking, my blood still dripping across the floorboards. Boone crouched beside me, pressing a rag into my palm to staunch the cut. His eyes searched mine. No triumph, no claim, just grim duty. "You bound us," I whispered, my throat raw. "I saved you," he answered, "but it ain't over. They'll circle us like wolves till morning." Kaya knelt too, her hands clutching my shoulders. "Sister, what have you done?" I looked at her, her face pale but alive, eyes brimming with gratitude she couldn't yet speak aloud. "What I had to," I murmured. Outside, the storm lashed harder, rain stinging the windows. Every gust carried the sound of men circling, their horses restless in the dark. Inside, 3 souls stood bound by blood, by vow, by survival's cruel hand. The night stretched long ahead, and with it the weight of a bond that no law, tribal or white, would let me escape easy. I felt the knife heavy at my belt, my sister's breath warm at my side, and Boone Carter's shadow cast long against the fire. And I knew the real fight had only just begun.
The night dragged on like a noose tightening. The storm hadn't let up, but the hoofbeats outside grew steadier, circling, testing our nerve. Boone kept his rifle leveled at the window slit, while I pressed my back against the wall, Kaya clutching my arm so hard it near cut off blood. Every snap of a twig, every gust of wind felt like the world was about to burst inside the cabin. Then a new sound cut through the storm, the clatter of hooves, but slower, measured, official. Moments later came a sharp knock at the door. "Federal law," a voice barked. "Open in the name of Deputy Marshal Fletcher." Boone's eyes narrowed. He nodded at me and Kaya, then unbarred the door just enough to reveal a tall man in a sodden coat, badge gleaming on his chest. His mustache dripped with rain, but his eyes were sharp as nails. "You got fugitives here, Carter?" Fletcher asked, stepping inside without waiting for leave. His boots left puddles on the floorboards. Boone bristled, rifle still in hand. "These women are my kin by marriage now. Under law, they're safe." Fletcher turned to me and Kaya. "Not fugitives," he said, voice even. "Witnesses, federal witnesses. We've been trying to keep you alive long enough to testify. Your names are on papers in Santa Fe. You'll bury Hargrove and half his filthy ring if you live to tell it." My chest tightened. Witnesses? Our father swore we were safe. Before Fletcher could answer, the door burst wider. Hargrove himself shoved inside, one arm clamped around Kaya's neck, a pistol jammed under her chin. She cried out, kicking, but he dragged her close like a shield. "You'll bury no one," Hargrove snarled, his eyes wild. Rain streamed off his hat onto her trembling face. "These girls don't talk, not if their own blood has already sold 'em." The words hit harder than his pistol. "What you sayin'?" I demanded, my knife trembling in my grip. Hargrove bared his teeth in a wolf's grin. "Your father took my coin, Crow Dog. Him and your fine Uncle Samuel. Sold you both like stock. You think he's your protector? He's my partner." Kaya whimpered, struggling against him. Fletcher raised his hand to calm me, but rage boiled up hotter than the fire at my back. My father, a traitor. My uncle, a trafficker. The earth itself felt like it had buckled beneath me. "Lies!" I screamed, though doubt clawed at my gut. "You poisoned truth to break us." Hargrove pressed the pistol harder against Kaya's jaw. "Believe what you want. The blood that birthed you has already betrayed you." Boone's rifle never wavered. His finger curled around the trigger, but I knew one wrong twitch could cost Kaya her life.
Fletcher's hand hovered near his holster, eyes darting for an opening. But it was me, knife slick in my hand, heart split open with rage and grief, who knew the choice had fallen squarely into mine.
Lightning split the sky, spilling white light through the cracks of the shutters. For a heartbeat, I saw my sister's terror frozen clear, the pistol jammed against her cheek, and the sneer carved deep across Hargrove's face. My breath rattled, my knife trembling in my grip. Then, another figure filled the doorway. Tall, broad-shouldered, hat pulled low. Rainwater streamed from a weather-beaten coat, and when he stepped inside, the firelight revealed the scar across his cheek. My uncle, Samuel Crow Dog. Kaya whimpered his name, a cry caught between fear and hope. Hargrove only laughed, tightening his hold. Look who rides in, the very man who helped strike the bargain. Ain't that right, Samuel? You and her daddy lined your pockets while I staked claim. Samuel's eyes cut to me, dark, heavy, full of a pain I'd never seen in him. That's a lie, Ayanna, he said, voice deep as a drum. Your father bent under threats. Hargrove's men cornered him, promised to burn the homestead, take you by force. He signed their papers 'cause they left him no other way. My throat burned. And you? Where were you? I was the knife in their shadow, Samuel said, taking a slow step forward. Your mother died fighting to keep you free. I swore to her I'd put Hargrove in the ground. I'd been hunting him ever since. The storm howled outside. The fire spit sparks. And for a moment, I could not breathe. Hargrove's words tangled with Samuel's, both cutting deep, but only one rang with the kind of truth the heart can feel. Don't you trust him? Hargrove barked, jerking Kaya so hard she gasped. Blood's blood, girl, and his runs black, same as your father's. Samuel's voice dropped low. Then why am I here now, Clyde? Not at your side, but against you? He let his coat fall open, revealing the iron gleam of a shotgun. Let her go, or I'll write your name in thunder before dawn. The room quaked with silence. Boone's rifle stayed trained, Fletcher's hand twitched near his holster, and I stood locked in the middle, my heart clawing between betrayal and fragile hope. Kaya's eyes darted to me, pleading, searching for my judgment. My knife trembled, my palm still scarred from the vow. I wanted to scream, to demand proof, to strike Samuel down and cling to him all at once. But when the next wolf's howl rose outside, low, mournful, too near, I saw Samuel's eyes flick toward it, and he gave the barest nod. It wasn't Hargrove's signal after all. It was his. My chest cracked open with a ragged breath. I lowered the knife just enough, not in surrender, but in recognition. Then stand with us, I said, voice hoarse but steady. And if you're lying, Uncle, I'll carve the truth from your heart myself. Samuel's jaw tightened. Fair. And with that word, the room's balance shifted. For the first time, the odds no longer tilted toward Hargrove's side. Dawn came slow, a pale gray bleeding through the storm clouds, but it brought with it more than light. The ground trembled with the roll of cavalry horses, bugle notes slicing the wet air like a blade. Territorial troopers rode over the ridge, rifles shining damp, their flags snapping against the wind. At their lead sat Captain Merrill, a hard man with eyes that missed nothing. His column cut through Hargrove's scattered men,
corralling them like cattle, ropes and iron waiting. Inside the cabin, the standoff cracked at last. Hargrove's pistol wavered against Kaya's jaw as the troopers shouted for surrender. Fletcher seized the moment, gun drawn, his shot ringing like final judgment. The pistol flew from Hargrove's hand, Kaya stumbling free into my arms. Boone swung his rifle to cover the outlaws as Samuel leveled his shotgun, and the fight drained from the room. Hargrove, breathing hard, sweat mixing with rain, dropped to his knees when Merrill's men stormed in. Shackles clamped his wrists, iron biting flesh. But he didn't bow, his eyes fixed on me, venom bright even in defeat. You think it's over? There'll be others, men with more gold, more guns. Your vows won't save you next time. I held his stare, my chest heaving, Kaya trembling against me. No, I said, voice steady as a drawn blade. But my blood will, and when it comes, you'll already be rotten in chains. Merrill ordered him hauled out, and with him the storm itself seemed to weaken, thunder drifting farther off. The cabin stood battered but unbroken, the fire still smoldering in its stone bed. Kaya clung to me, sobbing with relief. Fletcher wiped his brow, giving a short nod. Samuel leaned heavy on his shotgun, eyes weary but proud. And Boone Carter, set his rifle aside at last, the lines in his face easing for the first time since I'd met him. I turned to him, the weight of the vow pressing heavier than the storm had. What began as a bargain of survival had twisted into something else. Through blood and fire, we'd stood not as captor and captive, but as man and wife. My voice broke when I spoke, softer than the rain now dripping from the eaves. This marriage, maybe it's more than chains. Maybe it's truth. Boone's eyes met mine, steady, solemn. I won't claim what ain't freely given, but if you choose it, Ayanna, I'll carry it with honor. The dawn light touched his face, gentle and harsh all at once. I felt Kaya's hand slip into mine, warm and alive, and knew the night had given us more than survival. It had carved us into something new. Justice had come with morning, but so had the question of what kind of life I would live now that survival wasn't the only measure.
3 months later, the ranch no longer looked like the fortress it had that night. Fences stretched wide across the flats, cattle lowing steady, smoke from the chimney curling peaceful against a sky clear as glass. The storm had passed, the riders scattered, and justice carved its trail through the courts of Santa Fe. Kaya moved among the corral posts with a steadiness I'd never seen in her before. Her laughter rose like a bird startled free, light and unbroken. She carried scars, same as me, but she carried them in the open now, no shame in her step. Samuel lived out back in a bunkhouse he'd raised himself, working the herds by day and guarding our nights with a watchful eye. He spoke little of the past, but sometimes when firelight hit his scar, I saw the ghosts walking behind his eyes. And still he stayed, because family bound him tighter than regret ever could. As for Boone, my husband-in-law, my partner in truth, we built each day side by side. The vows spoken in blood and fear had not loosened with daylight. They deepened with every fence post set, every roof beam raised, every supper shared with Kaya safe between us. He never claimed me with anything but respect, never pressed where my heart had not yet healed. But each dawn I woke to his steady presence, I felt the choice grow stronger, not weaker. When the trials ended, Hargrove and his men chained to rot, Fletcher himself rode by to tell us the trafficking ring was broken clean. My knees near buckled at the words. For the first time since my mother's death, I felt the earth beneath me as solid, not shifting sand. And yet, some nights when the wind rose,
I found myself staring at the carved symbols still etched into the cabin walls. The blood had long since dried, but the meaning lingered. A vow once forced had become the root of something real, something I never expected. Kaya asked me once, timid but curious, "Sister, if Don had not come that night, would you still have chosen him?" I thought long before I answered. Then I took her hand and smiled faintly. Maybe it wasn't choice at all. Maybe it was what was always meant. The fire popped in the hearth, Boone's quiet whistle drifting from the porch, Samuel's boots crunching in the yard. For the first time in too many years, my heart beat not with fear but with peace. Survival had been our only aim that night. But from survival, we'd forged something greater, a family bound by law, by blood, by love we never saw coming. The storm had demanded marriage before dawn, but what it gave in return was a new life, and this time the choice was mine.